the moment you walk in, you know that you're in somewhere that's different. You know, I feel like as a guest, you're really able to feel that everyone there moves very cohesively and is upholding the same level of standard.
We operate like a big family. It's like you're coming into our home, and there's a lot of pride and in what's done, what's served, how it's done, so on and so forth.
That's something that's so difficult because like I feel like I'm very relational, kind of like how you are too, right? And when it comes to work and family, the lines are truly blurred a lot, and I feel like it takes a lot of love and trust from both of those families to make it all work. All right, welcome back to the Indulge podcast. I'm Marlon Gordon.
I'm Melissa Santel, and today we are interviewing owner of Donatello Italian Restaurant here in Tampa Bay, Gino Tiozzo. Hey, Gino.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. Melissa, Marlon, this is exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're so excited for the opportunity to chat with you about everything you have going on.
And I'm excited to talk about your story because you have a pretty rich history, family history that got you guys to Tampa that I would love to get into. I mean, we may actually be cousins, right?
We may. We established that before we started rolling, but there's a good chance.
There's a very good chance. Jamaica's a small island.
That's right. And our grandmothers being from the same parish is
it's wild.
Quite wild, yeah.
Yeah, well, take us on that journey. So where did it all begin?
So to tell the story of Donatello, I really have to start in Sottomarina, in the lagoon of Venice. Sottomarina is where my family's from originally. It's the border peninsula on the southern tip of the lagoon of Venice. And go back almost 100 years, and it was an agricultural and fishing village. Part of Chioggia, which is the larger area, Sottomarina being the very point where we're from. And my family was in agriculture and fishing. And we would take a big sailboat called a bragozzo, intended to transport goods, and take the product into the city, into Venice. And roaming vendors back then. I actually have a picture of one of my great uncles with a cane, like a piece of cane, and 2 straw baskets that I couldn't find. I tried to find it to bring it. Okay, I'll find it and try to send it to you. But with the straw baskets full of cabbage, because back then it's not like they sold 10 different types of vegetables or fruit.
Right.
It's whatever was growing for the season. It was all cabbage or all artichoke or all, and then each one would drop off in different parts of the city, walk their area, sell on the streets, cabbage, literally, right? And then meet back up at the boat and go back at the island to Sottomarina. In the early 30s, before World War II, the Doge or the Sindaco, the mayor of Venice, started cracking down on roaming vendors because he couldn't tax them. They grab the money and go back to where,
Of course.
Yeah, so that's when my family moved into Venice, 1932 or 3. Half the family moved in, half the family stayed on the island, and then we opened up fruit and vegetable and fish stands in a square called Santa Maria Formosa, which is where my dad grew up.
Oh, wait. Okay, so sorry to interject.
No, please.
Talk about this. So I actually stayed in that square. I went on a solo trip to Italy in May, and I was there for 2 weeks, and my trip started in Venice because that was one of the last places I was with my grandmother with. And so,
beautiful.
We had gone together. She brought the grandchildren, all of us, 4 girls, and I was like, okay, my solo journey needs to begin here because my heart's just tied to it,
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I stayed in that palazzo.
Santa Maria Formosa.
I did, and they have a hotel now that's called Palazzo Santa Maria Formosa, and I stayed in that exact hotel. It was the best hotel
so
I've
there's
ever
too
seen.
many coincidences happening here, but
we were meant to be here together.
We were. This is a moment that was already that has already happened. So we're just bringing it to light.
How special!
So that's the very square where my family settled around in homes around in the early 30s. And there were, back in then, there were 300, I think, or so thousand inhabitants in Venice. So the main market being Rialto, then they would go there and shop in the morning, and then all over the city in the squares, as you know, as you've seen, a little less now than before, there were stands supplying product to the neighborhood. So my family settled there and opened up 3 in that square and took over that market back in the early 30s. And my dad grew up in that square, playing soccer in that square, working in that square, rowing the boat at 6 years old in the morning to go to Rialto to pick up product and, and stock the stand for the day. Everything's for the day. And when I was a child in Venice, we managed to keep the stand that long. And or all 3 of them, actually, or 2 of them. My grandmother didn't have hers anymore. My great aunt and uncle had theirs. I would run around and go by and say hello, and they'd give me fruit. And,
well, what's amazing about that is literally in May, that was the picture that you're painting is the same exact picture that still remains today. There were kids playing soccer. There were multiple stands. I remember just like looking at the artichokes that were for sale. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish we had produce like this in the US. It's so different. It's like you're preserving a piece of history and time, and it sounds like
I was about to
exactly
say
that.
that you basically saw the picture that was the same 100 years ago. That's more or less.
That is the magic of Italy. Yeah.
Was there a specific type of seafood that you guys were fishing for whenever your family was back doing that back then?
I can't say. I don't know that specifically, but I know that there's a huge variety of fish in the lagoon, and most of the fishing I think was done in the northern Adriatic too as well. But the lagoon has a special ecological system because it's so large and so much shallow water that produces that there's smaller species of different fish that only stay that size, only certain times of year, so on, in that system. So like little tiny soles and the cuttlefish and the clams and different things like that are from the lagoon are to us special, right? Because that's what we've grown up with.
Well, that's what I was curious about
as a child. So I don't know to say specifically the answer to that question. I know that when I was a child, then we were mostly fruit and vegetable, no more fish stand. I know when we used to bring the product in the 20s and 30s, we had both going. So
yeah, I was kind of curious about that, and I'm sure we'll
100%.
get to it later. But I know on your current menu, you guys have a lot of seafood, and I've seen some of the things that you guys are serving. It looks fantastic.
We do have a lot of seafood, but to go back. Reason we got to Santa Maria Formosa and so on, the story as it goes on of my father, which is the story of Donatello that I'd like to get to, is after moving into Venice, the war happened and it kind of messed everything up for everybody, right? Post-war, there wasn't much to do, much work. I think my father in his late teens was delivering water for some Pellegrino at the point, which was already around, believe it or not. And a lot of the youth of Venice and around that age of Italy and countries that have been destroyed left home to look for work. And that's where he started really his career as a restaurateur by chance. After wandering around a little bit and doing odd jobs, settled in Geneva. He had somehow a contact, a friend that had gotten a job over there, something along those lines, and ended up going to look for work at the Hotel de Berg, and found a way to get a job as a bar back. He had worked a little bit behind the counter in Venice, but definitely a whole different ball game. But worked hard and got the job there, and then moved to banquets and doing extras in banquets in the dining room and so on and so forth. And learned really in one of the highest quality of service eras in hotels and formal situations that existed between the Hotel de Berg in Geneva, and then from there he wanted to move to London, which after the war was the first city that really blew up with the Beatles, with the miniskirts and fashion and so on. And the rest of Europe was in shambles. All of the youth of Europe that was mobile and ended up in London. So it was a pretty incredible period in history, if you will, of what was going on in the rebuild of a city like London and its explosion, which led to rock and roll and food in every which way, right? But so from the Hotel de Berg, he got a recommendation from his maître there, whose name was Zappa, like Frank Zappa, to go to the Savoy. So he moved to London, worked at the Savoy for a little over a year and a half maybe, also doing banquets and serving in the main dining room. And the ranking system there, you can imagine people that had spent a lifetime or in the industry and so on. So he wasn't making any money at all, right? Barely any to survive. And Italian restaurants then started sprouting up like crazy. It was when Italian food spread out of Italy post-war. And London was a big mecca of exposure and openings. So the people that were working in the restaurants were making a lot more money. He went out of the hotel industry and the service there and started working in restaurants around London. Worked also at La Dolce Vita, which is an iconic Italian restaurant going back in history, where they had shows as well and so on and so forth, dinner show type of situation. And worked at La Dolce Vita and then ended up in the Bahamas after about 10 years in London. Ended up moving to the Bahamas with, they got tired, I guess, of the cold and rain and gray.
That's
I
the reason to
can
move.
blame him. Yeah.
Moved to the Bahamas and spent about 10 years there living and working, and that's how I came about with that. But as soon as I was born, we moved back to Venice, and he opened up a restaurant bar in Venice called Caffè De Vidi. And why De Vidi, I don't know. I don't know.
What does
honestly.
that translate to in Italian?
It's a name.
Okay.
Yeah, De Vidi is a name, and I honestly
Interesting.
don't know. I'm going to say ahead of time, I don't know why. So if you were
We need to do
going to
some
ask me.
historical
Yeah.
digging here.
But that's where I grew up then, in that square, around the restaurant, around the bar, around the restaurant in Campo Santo Stefano, which is the one, if you've recently gone to Venice, you know the Accademia Bridge, the wooden bridge that comes
Yes.
over
Yes.
the Grand Canal. If you're going towards San Marco, it's that first big square that has a statue of the poet in the trench.
Okay.
With a beard looking down like this.
I
He's
need
looking right
visual
at the bar restaurant.
I
So
need
like
visual
I literally
reference.
have that image in my mind forever and ever because I grew up looking at it.
So what was it like growing up working in the restaurant for your
So
father?
back,
Or when did you know that you wanted to work in the restaurant, right? Because I know what it's like too to grow up with parents who are entrepreneurs and you see what they do and you see the toll it takes on them or the gratitude that it brings them. There's so many different emotions that come with owning a business in general. So when were you like, you know what, I'm going to do this too?
well, I don't know that I ever just kind of decided that. It just happened.
Even better. Even better.
Yeah, I worked when I was in Venice. I didn't really work in the restaurant bar. I was only 7, 8 years old. I just lived around it, when I wasn't in school. And after that, I did work in Donatello as a teen, mostly in the dining room as an extra, as a busser, and trained mostly in the dining room. After that, I took a few-year hiatus and went away to school, moved back to the Bahamas, did some things on my own, and eventually my father came to visit me. He needed some help. His last partner had left the business, and I needed some help as well at the moment, and it just timing was right. And I came back to Tampa and ended up in, 20, let me think, 26 years later,
Wow.
we're sitting here.
So
Wow.
why did he pick Tampa?
Good question.
That is a good
Yeah.
His time in the Bahamas over the 8 years or 10 years, he had visited Florida, obviously, quite a bit, going back and forth, people getting off the island for this and that. And he had been to Tampa for sure, at least for one of the Super Bowls, I believe, just a few years prior to 85. I think there was one in 82 or 3 or something.
Okay.
It was the Raiders. Marcus Allen, I think. Those years and the Raiders that won the Super Bowl.
I was not alive yet.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm
dating
to
myself.
say I was not alive. You know what? Everything's fine. Okay.
So he had visited Tampa, and actually there was another restaurant that had opened here that I wouldn't be surprised if he went to visit while he was here, that was in town for over 30 years. And I'll just say that again. I don't want to say names. I don't have people's permission to do that. But I believe my father and the gentleman knew each other, or at least of each other through mutual friends, because he came from Washington, D.C., this other restaurateur, and some of the people that helped start Donatello, as well as staff and so on, also came from Washington, from Tiberio. And this other person, Lauro anyway, Lauro's was around for 30 plus years, also came from Washington at Tiberio, which Tiberio, the owner of Tiberio, came from La Dolce Vita in London. He had worked there as well, went to Washington, D.C., opened up Tiberio, and in the first week had senators and congressmen and ex-presidents and presidents, so on, and international diplomats and so on come in to the restaurant to eat. So he immediately made it first class. If whatever it wasn't on the day of opening, it became overnight. And
Yeah,
I'm not
it
trying to
sounds
say
like the
that it
it
wasn't
spot.
something. It just became organically, what it was, because of its location and so on and so forth. And it definitely had its part in bringing Italian food internationally and in the U.S. to a level of fine dining, along with others. But because of being in Georgetown, D.C., definitely played a big part as well. So from there, having visited Tampa, knowing Florida, came back and found the location, and along with a few other friends that go back to London and some to the Bahamas, over the years, they decided, hey, let's give it a shot, and it's, Tampa's been good to us, and 40 years later, we're still doing well and moving forward. So, that's kind of...
That's it. We did it. Well, 40 years is an incredible accomplishment, and you must be so proud. Your family must be so proud. What does it take for a restaurant to stay open, stay relevant, and stay successful for 40 years?
Primarily a good following. Customers make that happen for us. Obviously, without them, we're not there. But also a great team. We're extremely fortunate. The staff at Donatello is a professional staff that has longevity. Some of the staff, Carmelo's been with us since March of '85. Bartolo's been with us since '87. Ted since '87 or '8. David since '87 or '8. Still active in the restaurant. Okay. Mauro, I think just before I came in 98. So like maybe 96 or something like that, 95. Pedro, 86.
I think this is a testament to great leadership to keep people around for that long that love the career and the brand and the opportunity. I mean, you guys are doing something right from a leadership level, so that's pretty huge.
Well, I appreciate that. Majority of the time there, it's credited to my father, I will say. But I did have the best teacher, you know, and doing my best to keep it going, keep the traditions going, keep the culture going. They meaning the staff members that have been around for much longer than I have, especially if you add up all of them and the time additional to what my time, all of it together, it's another well over 40 years. But they play a huge role in keeping the culture, the tradition, the quality, passing it on to the new guys that come in. And fortunately, people that accept it and appreciate it and want to improve it as well, stay. And we have long-standing staff that have been with us for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, quite a few. I'd say that over 50% of our staff has been with us for a good 10 year, and 25 to 30% over 30 years, which is wild. And the decades and quite a bit over 20. Albert's been with us for 20 years. You know, it's we operate like a big family. And the ones that don't end up weeding themselves out fairly quickly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you actually took the words right out of my mouth, because I was thinking to myself, okay, so you essentially have a second family at the restaurant. So with that can come
First family,
really
it's
great
older
things.
than my family.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, my children and my, you know, it's older. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, you witness so many other people's life moments when you know them for such a long time. And then, let's be honest, when we're working, and in life, we're spending most of our life at work, right? Like our job time is our lifetime, essentially. And so sometimes you're even closer with people at work than you are in certain friendships. How do you maintain professional boundaries in that type of setting?
Good question. It's a good question, and the answer is that it does get muddled. You know, there's no clear lines when the relationships go back that long, but there is a approach of respect and fullness between in relationships, and attempt at separating, you know, work from family, like anybody else, an attempt at it that plays a role. Luckily, when I came into the restaurant, I had my father there with me for another over 15 years. So the relationship with the staff members that had been there for a long time, that actually have known me since I was 11, 12, 13, 15 years old, transitioned and happened well, with my father really being the hardest one of all to give me any rope, if you will, or leeway, until, not leeway, but rope to reins, if you will. You know, I think that's the right term, over the years, but then eventually built the rapport, the trust, and so on. And it worked. It worked well.
Yeah, that's something that's so,
and sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's something that's so difficult, because like I feel like I'm very relational, kind of like how you are too, right? And when it comes to work and family, the lines are truly blurred a lot, and I feel like it takes a lot of love and trust from both of those families to make it all work.
100%, and it's ultra complicated.
Oh yeah.
As families always
Yes.
are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest, it's the truth. It's ultra complicated. There's no answer to that. I'm fortunate to still have those staff members that watch the transition happen, that and still backing the business, still believing in it, still working in it, still passing it on. So something happened well, and they play a huge part in it. And I'm just honestly feel very fortunate, as well as to have the opportunity to carry it on, to work with them, to have worked with my father, to carry on his legacy, the legacy of Donatello. I mean, there's a history there. I also wanted to mention from Donatello that I don't know how many restaurants have opened around the world. I don't know the answer to this. From staff members that left and branched out on their own, but got their start there, or what they, at least many of them, claim was their school, in the Tampa area, as well as Rome, couple in Venice, and around the country as well, over 40 years, some of which are still there, some of which are not, some of which have reopened new restaurants, and so on and so forth. So what happened from those years, or from the years of Donatello and the start of Donatello, it's I feel, I don't know if it's unique, but it's special.
Yeah, I will say from the
know?
guest experience, the moment you walk in, that you're in somewhere that's different. I feel like as a guest, you're really able to feel that everyone there moves very cohesively and is upholding the same level of standard. And I love going there knowing that I'm seeing familiar faces that have been there forever, that I'm just getting an crazy hospitality experience, in the sense that it's like, I don't know, like it's like a warm hug walking into your restaurant.
That's beautiful what you just said, and
Yeah.
the way you said it. God bless you. And it makes me feel very good that it appears, but it actually is that way. We operate like a big family. It's like you're coming into our home, and there's a lot of pride and in what's done, what's served, how it's done, so on and so forth. And that's the culture that I was referring to earlier. Hospitality is an art that I believe my father was one of the best at, and it starts with sincerity.
Can't fake that.
No, and everything there is so genuine. And I would love for you to talk about the menu and classics that have been on the menu. Maybe some of them are still your father's recipes. For the humans who have yet to be to Donatello, paint that picture for us.
So our menu is a classic Italian menu. It doesn't rewrite the wheel. It does the classic dishes as best as we can, with the best initial ingredients. To me, Italian food is taking something good and not messing it up. Too much is not necessary. You just need to try to highlight the product, right, as much as possible, with the touches of this and that, right? But the menu is a classic menu, and we make some of our own fresh pastas. When I say fresh, I mean made from scratch. Mostly the stuffed pastas, like the agnolotti, which I'm very proud of, and I think our guys do an amazing job with the fresh pasta. I have trouble most other places that I go, because they've been making it the same way for 40 years.
Yeah.
It's what I'm used to.
Right.
It's what I grew up with. It's like my grandmother's kitchen, It's and it wasn't, what I mean by that, my grandmother in Venice, we actually eat a lot more risotto, a lot more polenta, right, than pasta. We never made fresh pasta. But what I mean by that is it's been in my life for 40 years, right, since I was a child. And the fresh pasta aspect actually comes from another, one of the original participants in opening up the restaurant. His and owner, his mother and his family is from Rimini and by Bologna, where in my mind they make the best fresh pastas and the bolognese sauce and the agnolotti and the tortellini and all of those things that have roots in Bologna and Emilia Romagna. Are those recipes go back to there that we still use today for the tortellini, for the agnolotti, which are filled with ricotta cheese and spinach. I mean, they're like little pillows. They're so
They're
delicate.
delicious.
Yeah,
They're delicious.
yeah, it's great. And we make our own cannelloni, fettuccine, and then the other products, the linguine, capelli, penne, so on. We use the dry, or else we'd have to have a pasta factory
Right.
in the back. But and I like, honestly, the dry product is more.
I feel like you can cook
what
it
I'm
more
used
al
to.
dente that
Right.
way, and so
It's
yeah.
It's the way I grew up. Is the stuff? Certain pastas are better fresh. Certain pastas are better with a dried. Either way, that's all completely opinion
Agreed.
based.
Talk to
I
me
was
about,
talking about the menu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk to me about
Sorry.
this crab pasta with an obscene amount of crab on it. That
No,
that is delicious.
It is.
So that goes back to the part of picking the best product.
Yeah.
So, we use a colossal jumbo blue crab product that I source very particularly, and it's delicious. It's an excellent product. It's hard to make a bad pasta with it, but our guys have been doing it the same way for 40 years again, and have it down to a T. It's one of our biggest sellers, and one of my. I hate to say this, it's not true. I like everything that's on our menu, or else it wouldn't be there. But it's definitely a highlight on our menu. A couple other things are our beef carpaccio. The way we do it is kind of unique. I'm not going to get into that, but it's a great dish. And if you like carpaccio, it's done one of the classic ways with capers, some shaved Parmigiano, and diced onion, yellow onion, and lemon juice. Olive oil, salt and pepper, dressed at the table or tableside, or you can do it yourself if you like to do that. Fresh buffalo milk mozzarella that comes in from a purveyor, but comes from Italy. Very good product.
The scallops.
Say it again.
The scallops.
Scallops. If you like scallops, we have scallops. We actually don't have a dish on our full menu, but you've planted something in my mind. We do different scallop dishes with U10s and including in our zuppa di pesce, seafood pastas, and risottos. And every once in a while also run an app where we grill the scallops, do a little pesto drizzle, and some of the diced tomato dressed like a bruschetta tomato would be on top. Pretty delicious.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
That's what I want to eat all summer long.
You got my mind going. Okay?
Okay, keep rattling
And
it
my
off.
stomach
Let's
going.
go. And what about the desserts? Because the desserts are forever on display. They're made fresh daily. The tiramisu is ungodly delicious. It's sinful.
Yeah, bravo. Desserts are made in house every morning. Pastry chef comes in and does his thing before the rest of the kitchen gets going. We typically have a mille foglie, which is a Napoleon, as well a ricotta cheesecake with mixed berries.
That's my mom's favorite.
Oh, man. Sign me up, please.
A light chocolate mousse cake, which the chocolate mousse cakes now are usually on the heavy side. Ours is a chocolate flavored whipped cream layered in a chocolate cake that we slice, and so it's quite light in comparison to most. We make tiramisu, of course, creme brulee with white chocolate and raspberries, and a couple others rotating in and out. And we also bring in some bindi products in the chocolate tartufo and lemon tartufo.
Yes.
A lot of veal, as anybody would expect. Milk-fed veal that we make scallopine and have veal chops. And we actually have, I don't want to sound surprised. I know it, but I don't know if a lot of other people do. We have some great steaks on our menu also, just tenderloin, filet mignons, and strips typically. Every once in a while I run a ribeye because I like ribeyes too.
I like ribeyes too,
Ribeye
I like
is
the
my
fat.
fave, too.
Yeah, give me the
Yeah.
fat. Yeah.
So
it's all
we'll
the
run a
flavor.
ribeye, nice 20-ounce ribeye grilled with a little rosemary and garlic finish, simple, right? Tuscan
Nothing
style.
better than that.
Yeah.
Truly.
So when I say that Tuscan style, our menu is, our style of cooking is mostly leans towards the northern end of Italy with our sauces and so on. But our menu has dishes that are typical of all over Italy. Your roasted peppers, garlic, oregano, and a red sauce over a couple veal scallopine light on top. Just that's more deeper Italy. But it's those flavors that everybody associates, and making me hungry again.
Where are we going for lunch? Your place
I
or
know,
dinner?
like, are we going to Donatello after this? I think we might
your
be.
call.
Yeah. Aren't you guys doing entertainment now at your location?
We do. We have for many, many years now, actually. Thank you for bringing it up. We started in the late 90s when we opened up our bar. Used to be a narrow... Anyway, we blew out the bathrooms, did an addition, and opened up the bar area to a little over twice the size of original, and put in a baby grand piano, and we had some different musicians in there over the years. But I would like to mention Miss Kitty Daniels, who has been playing with us for over 20 years now. Actually came in and started working with my father the same year that I came in, just a few months prior, right?
Sweet Miss Kitty.
No,
She serenaded
marvelous.
me on my first date with my boyfriend
Really?
that I now have. So thank you.
Well,
Sweet Miss
that
Kitty.
was the arrow,
Yeah.
the
Cupid.
Cupid arrow.
Yeah.
She's
she's-
working that magic over there.
She's phenomenal. I've been very fortunate to listen to her play for over 20 years. I learned so much about music just listening, and the restaurant never feels more like home than when she's playing the piano and that sound is filling the room, honestly. We do have fantastic entertainers and have over the years. Dwight Champagne was with us for 10 years or so, and Scott Hardy now with his band, Scott Hardy Encounter, have taken over, helping me manage the weekends and are pretty much there every weekend. They're like a 4 or 5 piece band that just plays phenomenally, and over the years they've just really gotten comfortable in the space and just keep sounding better and better. I'm really happy to have them play with us. And the bar gets live, and it's a lot of fun on weekends. People come in and dance. We have birthday parties in there, trying to limit them to certain sizes because it's getting, you can dine in there. Yeah. Just
And the opera singers.
Opera Tampa is fantastic, and the opera nights that we have at the restaurant are phenomenal. We started that back in the early 2000s when Opera Tampa started at the Straz, and doing special event nights. I think the first time we did a couple, 2, 3 a year, maybe 4 seasonally. Our baby grand piano's on wheels, so we roll it and put it right in the middle of the dining room. It's pretty spectacular. Glass top. Looks really nice. and sounds really nice because of the way the room is and the arches and so on.
Yeah.
It works out really well. The singers, Opera Tampa and the Straz bring 7-8 singers. So when they're all singing group, it's phenomenal. They just walk through the tables, and then they do duets, just the guys, just the girl. It's beautiful atmosphere.
I love
Our
that.
customers love it. We had to take a break because of COVID for a few years, and I wasn't comfortable having those types of events. But we're back on it, and we had a couple recently that were spectacular. The singers sounded amazing. I don't know if it was because of the break, but they sounded better than ever. I had a lot of fun. And we'll have more, and we're going to probably announce a date today or tomorrow for June. And I think we have one scheduled almost every month going through the end of the year.
And when you announce these events and different happenings at the restaurant, where can people go to find them?
Good question. So you can add to we have a mailing list that we send invites out to. We post it on our different social medias, which I think I sent you links to. Did I?
Yes,
Did you get
yes,
them?
and we can link them in the show notes.
Cool. And like Facebook and such, and on our website as well. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you for that.
I got you.
Yeah, as well, we have carnival nights, which are a lot of fun too, and something very Venetian, even though carnival's all over the world, but carnival in Venice is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have carnival nights at the restaurant in February, typically right around Fat Tuesday when it's supposed to be, usually, or sometimes it's not because it might fall on a inconvenient week or something.
Yeah.
I think this year it was really close to Valentine's Day, if not like the day before or something.
It was. I was
Or the
actually
same
in
day.
Italy. I was in Naples when it happened this
Oh,
year.
wow. Okay.
And
Nice.
what I didn't know was that it's really for kids. A large majority of it in
Okay.
Naples was like kids were dressed up in costumes. There were tiny cats running around. There were Spider-Men running around. They were throwing glitter everywhere and confetti and
Okay.
squares. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I know that that's not like a typical carnival festival where there's like Venetian masks and parades and music and live entertainment. I think we caught like I don't know, it was like a spin-off of
So,
the real big events.
well, I don't know. I think it's just culturally different areas celebrated differently.
Yeah.
Different cities in Italy, I'm sure, celebrated differently. The only one I know a little bit about, because I haven't been there for carnival since before I can remember, honestly. February is just not the right time of year.
It was chilly.
Also either going back 100 years, either school or work related. Just February, not a good time of year to go over. And because it's freezing cold. So I haven't, but Carnival in Venice and all over the world is different, right? Carnival is celebrated for the same reason, tied to Easter and Lent and so on. But, Rio has, Brazil, and different areas have their own festivities. I know about Venice, and we try to bring some of that culture into Donatello at that time of year with the masks, with different performances, DJing in some Rococo Veneziano, and then having we have belly dancers and jugglers and just like wild.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
It's
For a
so
dining
cool.
room, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Singers, guitar and dancing, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun night. Our customers look forward to it. And we do two because it's and ask people to choose one because we only have so many tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we try to give everybody a chance to
Can
come
you
for one of the
sneak
nights.
us a VIP invite
Yeah,
for
right.
next year, please?
Right. Late February,
Yeah.
okay?
I'm putting my
Perfect.
calendar
After
right
Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm mentally locking it in. That's right after my birthday, so I'll never forget.
Done. What day is your birthday?
February 10th.
Got it. Locked in.
now. So can you talk to us about what you guys do to serve the community? Because I know you guys do a lot of community events as well.
So our biggest community event of the year happens on Thanksgiving Day. We feed about close to or right around 1,000 people on Thanksgiving Day every year in the restaurant. Traditional Thanksgiving dinner with also a community pasta bowl in the middle of the table, depending on how many are sitting at the table and so on. It's a special day. We do it lunchtime for over a few hours, and it's a tradition that started with my father and Mayor Sandy Friedman in maybe 85 or 6. I'm not sure exactly the year, but within a year, max 2 of when we opened. And Mayor Friedman frequented the restaurant quite a bit. They became friends, and I think they got to talking one day as my father asking and proposing to do something for the community, and they came up with the idea together to do it on Thanksgiving Day. It's grown with the help of my stepmother, Alessandra. That's kind of her project for the last as long as I can remember. And she handles that. She works with all different organizations, Department of Children and Families, Boys and Girls Club, 20 different organizations that I can't list off the top of my head. But all over the community, and also churches and the city of Tampa and so on, to organize and make sure people know about it, and it's open to the public, and help schedule times and make it function properly. This goes back, and I think the first year maybe we had 3 families come in, 15, 20 people, if that, something like that. And it's grown to what it is today, with also gifts that are given to all the kids that come through, kind of kicking off the holidays, that my stepmother also handles, with people that volunteer their time, as well as our staff volunteers their time prepping and working for this event. We have this year, after 3 years or since COVID, we hadn't done it in the restaurant. We had done food in pans and sent them out to the organizations in containers and asked them to distribute it because of obvious reasons. This year, this past Thanksgiving, I was really happy to make the decision and feel good about having it back in the restaurant again, like it always has been, and it's supposed to be. It was an amazing day. We had a great turnout, and I wanted to mention we had a great turnout of volunteers, with over 60 volunteers show up without us reaching out really, other than maybe some on social. But people that remembered, came back, familiar faces that came back to help volunteer and make it happen again. There's no way that only our staff could serve 1,000 people in 4 or 5 hours. It was not possible. I mean, we'd get it done, but for having 40 or 50 or 60 extra people, that are some from the industry, some not, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's incredibly helpful. In making it happen, including Miss Kitty and Majid, that come and play the whole day, the whole event. For as people are leaving, they go through the lounge. They get they pick out a gift or are handed a gift according to their age or so on. And Miss Kitty's playing the whole time in there, and her grandson, I have to mention this as well, MC, has for many years now, I don't know how many years now, maybe close to 15 years or around that number, organized a 25, 30 different full character costumed from all the different Marvel movies, DC movies, Disney movies, superheroes. I'm talking full costume. He worked in that industry for a few years in his late teens, early 20s, and kept contacts and so on. So all of these actors or people, performers in this industry come in and volunteer their time as well. and mingle in the tables with the kids and with the families and take pictures. It's an amazing event. It's really an amazing event, and the community comes together to make it happen. The community that supports us, that has for 40 years, it's an event that we provide a location for, and our purveyors help us with it. Our customers go out of their way to help us with it, besides the fact that they make it possible by coming all year. So it's really a special event. That's, you asked me what we do in the community, and that's the most impactful, I think, and special event to me, to the staff, and I hope to the community that we participate in, and every year,
That's a beautiful thing.
Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, it's an incredible thing when you're able to step back out into the world, like out of the restaurant, and then you're still feeding the community, finding purpose and helping people and bringing them back to you, and in order to create more memories for them around the table, especially during such a, an incredible time in everyone's lives. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's
such a family-oriented holiday, and I can imagine that means a lot to them.
Yeah, giving thanks. We should do our part every day, right? And helping as much as possible the community that we live in. But yes, Thanksgiving is the one recognition of that, I guess, for everyone.
It's true. Yeah. Gratitude is a powerful thing.
It is. And
we also do other events through the course of the year for different charities and different organizations, and give gift certificates and things like that. But in comparison, Thanksgiving is really the one that is dearest to me and my family and the restaurant. And,
yeah, it's heart-filled.
I like to give as much as we can through the year, but that one goes back to when I was a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like your Super Bowl almost. In
a way. Well, it's.
So speaking about memories,
special day.
You brought some memories with you today, didn't you?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Show us the memories.
Yeah. Take us there.
Take us there.
All right, this is very possibly the first, if not it's one of the very first articles that was written about us in 1985, August 25th. I went digging through some archives with my boys in the last couple of days and came across this. Donatello's
show
here.
The camera.
Yeah.
Show the camera.
A little bit higher.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. There we go. Yeah, it was a beautiful article with a beautiful heading and piece of our history.
You said that was one of the first articles that you received press
it's
for?
It's the oldest one that I have. And I don't know the answer, but it's got to be one of the first. We were open 8 months when it was written, 1985. And it was a dining out issue from Manatee County. Donatello's may serve the best Italian food in the state of Florida. God bless her.
There you go.
I love
Facts.
it. Old newspaper clippings fascinate me.
Yeah.
The way that they wrote, just how everything is laid out. Like, oh no. At the bottom of that article, it has a rating for atmosphere, food, and service, and he got 5 stars for everyone. I feel like we need to point that out.
I don't know if you want
Okay. Yeah. 5 check marks, excuse me.
5 check marks. I love it.
This is, I found this one also. Gruppo Ristoratori Italiani. So this was a recognition by an Italian restaurant industry organization that started in, which way am I going?
There you go.
You got it.
That started in the late 70s, 79, I believe, that helped recognize Italian restaurants around the world that served authentic food, also promote them, advertise them, bring media attention, as well as connect them with purveyors and suppliers. So the chain related to or associated with providing and serving authentic Italian products and food throughout the world.
Great.
I think they stopped for a few years and reopened in reestablished in 2017, and are still going well. So that's it. That's that. Here.
It's a beautiful piece of
From
stuff.
1987. It's, beautiful thing, recognizing us as members and so on.
I love the gold gilded paper.
It's it's quite beautiful. It's quite impressive.
It's truly
I love the
beautiful.
official seal too.
The seal, the
yeah.
wax seal with the Italian ribbon.
Extremely official.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks it.
It does. It is. We're
Right? This is pretty special as well. And I didn't realize that we had been doing this so long when I found this. Time kind of gets away from us sometimes, But this is from the Italian Joint Cell at CENTCOM that we participate every year on the 2nd of June is the day of the Italian Republic. So it was when the day that when Italy was united and formed as a country. Mm-hmm. And it's recognized by the Joint Cell. They have an event that's been taking place at the Italian Club in Ybor City, which, by the way, is the oldest Italian club that's still running in the country, if you didn't know.
It's very cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's literally the oldest one in the U.S., which I was surprised when I found that out. I've known for a few years, but I would have thought that some of the older cities had. Either way, the Joint Cell, they have their event, which is coming up in a few days. They're having it.
I know.
Today's Friday. They're having it tomorrow, actually, this year, because they wanted it on Saturday night. So we're providing our mille foglie cake for them for the event, which we make 2 big ones. We decorate them with Italian map of Italy and so on and so forth. But our dessert, which you asked about, has been the dessert served at the Joint Cell event for celebrating the Day of the Italian Republic. For over 20 years now, which I didn't realize, or almost 20 years. This may have been year 1, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, my homework is for someone to take a picture of the dessert tomorrow so that we can post it on social media for you.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to know all
Absolutely.
these things.
All right, I'll do that. I'll do
Okay.
And you
Good.
said your kids or your boys help you find these memories, right? And they pulled them out for you.
that. They did. They were stacked up and boxed up, a lot of these things, along with pictures and many other different plaques and different things over the 40-year period that
Okay. So
were maybe on the wall at some points and then taken down. One thing that was on the wall for many years is the Tampa Tribune article of Tom McEwen that when he retired. I don't know if either one of you is familiar with Tom McEwen, but Tom was one of our greatest customers and ambassadors over 30 years until he passed from the day we opened. And he was the sports writer for the Tampa Tribune. Very well-respected, very intelligent person that had many visitors of different sports figures over the years come in to see him in Tampa, and he would bring them all to Donatello. I never saw him in shoes. He always wore a suit with flip-flops, his old Sundeck flip-flops, okay?
That is so Florida.
Yeah, 100%. In the restaurant, full suit, with Dr. Pacheco, Muhammad Ali's fight, one of the greatest fight doctors of all time, right? Which I had the pleasure of meeting with him.
yeah.
Casual. Yeah. It's fine.
No, when I was a kid, and he's in his flip-flops. He was also a submarine captain in World War II. I mean, the man was a pretty interesting man.
Sounds like a legend.
Yeah.
Tom McEwen, which I think they named the street next to the stadium, Tom McEwen Boulevard. That piece of it, where I think where Tampa Bay turns into Tom McEwen, and then
That's neat.
just by the stadium
Well,
there.
What a tribute.
Yeah, that's I found that article also. It's so funny. It has pictures of him in different costume because he was like a character, and he played different parts, over the years. Anyway.
Well, speaking of your kids, do you think they're gonna get the itch like you did to start their own restaurant or join the family business?
I'm gonna hold off on answering that question. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that.
All right, that's fair.
I don't want to put anything out there in the atmosphere. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, I do have one final question for you. And it's something that we like to ask on the podcast. And it's, if you could only have one more meal, what's your final dish? What are you going to eat? And you have to pick something. We get this response a lot.
Yeah, we do.
Tough one.
Like, if you're on death row, what are you craving?
Yeah.
I would have to pick two, one from each of my grandmother's kitchens.
I knew you were going to say
Okay.
something like that.
That's
Yeah.
fair. We
Yeah.
can split the plate in
Yeah.
half.
Yeah, I would have to pick two. And the answer to that is I'll give me a second. Give me a second.
Yeah, think long and hard on this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, not that.
Well, you don't want to piss off any grandmas,
Yeah.
first of all. She's watching, both of them.
No. I guess it would have to be my nonna Elides, and these things don't really go together. So it's a little bit difficult.
They do now.
Yeah, they do now. They do in my
Yeah.
mind, okay?
Yeah.
My nonna Elides, sipping techa, which is the squid cooked in its own ink with, she would put a little bit of tomato in it so it wasn't so softened up the ink. Really good. With polenta that she would make in the pot and then pour, when there was the right consistency, she'd pour it over the cutting board and it always went right to the edge of the cutting board and then stopped. And as it started cooling, it would, because it would make it a little loose, and then cut with a string. You get a wedge of polenta and the sipping, forget it.
Okay. Now that's my death row meal.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And then my other grandmothers from the Caribbean side, Jamaican actually,
Yeah.
coconut cream pie, the absolute best. Period. Dessert, hands down, ever made. My granny's coconut cream pie, meringue this high. She had the grinder who would grind her own coconut out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best. The custard so rich, forget it. Made her own. Yeah, made everything from scratch. Breads, pie, crust, everything, roast. I was very lucky. My grandmothers were great cooks. The one from the islands actually, like the variety, my grandmother in Italy did, 6, 7 things, and they were the best. Period. Like everybody's grandmother.
Yeah.
Of those, my grandmother on the other side was a master, and like I said, my family, I was telling you earlier, over there was also in the food industry, food business, restaurants and catering and so on. So yeah, my restaurant history goes fairly deep on both sides, I guess.
Yeah.
Cooking and food anyway.
Well, it shows.
Pretty lucky.
It really does.
Pretty lucky. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Okay?
Even
happened.
better. You were destined for it.
You were. It's in your blood.
It's in my blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me
Yeah.
on the show and taking this down. This is pretty eventful for me. And
Yeah.
I think it's the first time that's ever been taken down, this story. So I appreciate it very much.
Oh, well, you were a wonderful guest. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. And I hope you'll add this podcast to your treasure chest of nostalgia for Donatello and the family.
It's an instant.
Yeah.
That's today's media works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
hey, thanks again for hanging out with us today. And thank you, everybody out there, for checking out the Indulge podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.